Welcome to Around and Around, the OCD Circle. My name is Elizabeth, and I have been living with obsessive-compulsive disorder for over 60 years. I am not a therapist or a member of the medical community. I am just an ordinary person like yourself who will be sharing my thoughts and experiences with you, with the hope that you will feel less alone. If you don't have OCD, I hope you will learn some information that will help you understand this disorder better. Some of the topics I will be covering may be triggering for you as a listener. If so, I apologize in advance. Since I don't know what your triggers are, please refer to the episode summary in the show notes before listening to each episode. If at any time you feel like hurting yourself or ending your life, please call the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988 if you are in the United States. It is open 24 hours a day, and you will be connected with the nearest crisis center to receive immediate counseling and local mental health referrals. Now, on to today's episode. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're having a beautiful day. I have slots available this month for more interviews, so if you feel led to share your OCD story, please reach out to me at aroundandaroundtheocdcircle@gmail.com. Today's episode is part 1 of my conversation with Agis Angeleye. He is a musician, photographer, and video artist from Greece, and he's now living in the United Kingdom. Agis's OCD started when he was 25 years old, but he remembers having OCD tendencies at a young age. His OCD was centered around constantly worrying about his health. 90% of his day was dedicated to OCD compulsions. Agis describes the differences between the healthcare systems in Greece and in the UK. He explains the treatments he has undergone and how he is now managing his mental health and is living a happy life. I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with Agis, and I'm sure you will as well. Good morning, Agis.
Hello, Beth.
How are you?
Doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to finally meet you. And would you just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you live, anything you want to share?
All right. So my name is Agis. I am 40 years old. I live in London, UK, but I'm originally from Greece, and I live in the UK for the past 2 years. So I grew up and I lived the rest of my life in Greece, in Europe. And I'm here to talk about OCD because of you and
Absolutely.
your amazing show that I'm sure it helps people understand better and learn new things and help each other, I guess.
Yeah. So would you like to tell us a little bit about your OCD, like what kind you have and when it first started, things like that, a background?
Yeah. All right. So it all started when I was 25 years old. I guess I was an OCD personality when I was a kid, because now that I perfectly understand what OCD is and living with it, I can see and I can recognize the little thing I was doing as a kid or, in high school. But it really struck me when I was 25, and my OCD was severe. I'm talking about probably 90% of my day dedicated to my compulsions and my OCD. So basically for the first 5 years, I was trapped, couldn't work, couldn't have a relationship, and basically I was trapped in my place, and it was really, really hard. And I guess that's the problem most people have, meaning that nowadays everyone says I have OCD, or my OCD is killing me, phrases like that. But if you haven't lived the true thing, the true hell, you don't understand what you're talking about, I guess. And I can understand how this is frustrating for people who suffer from severe OCD. So it all started when I was 25. My OCD was and still is by the book. So mostly related to health issues, fear that I suffer from something critical like HIV or cancer or heart attacks or whatever. I was a huge wash hunter, but also all the double checking things, making sure that nothing will go wrong, not leaving mistakes, which, as the time was progressing, it was getting worse and worse, because you start excluding things just to be sure that you're safe. So at the end of the day, the OCD is in every aspect of your life. I have a lot of quote funny stories about what I was doing, and yeah. So that was the first 5 years. Then I got treatment, and nowadays, let's say that I'm really, really well. There are several OCD things here and there that I do and I live with, but I have a perfect life. And my therapist says that he've never seen such an improvement. So I guess I was lucky, and I'm proud that I escaped this hell. But yeah, I'm living now more like an OCD personality rather than someone who suffers from OCD per se, I guess. And the tricky part is that my OCD changed and transformed entirely. So what I used to have for the first 20 years changed now to something different. Which, behind the scenes, it's always the same thing. Double checking, making sure you're right, being afraid that you're going to die, or all these things together. But at least I'm able to, live my life and being happy. And yeah, it was a long journey. I feel I escaped from it, although I still suffer from several things. But at least for the past 5 years, I live a perfectly normal life, let's say. Could be better now that I'm thinking of it. But yeah, I mean, okay, I'm good. So that's my story in, I don't know, 5 minutes.
Okay, so I have a lot of questions for you. That was a great intro. I want to go back to, you were saying that looking back as a child, you had some tendencies. And I'm going to ask you this question for people who are listening, people who have children who are seeing symptoms. Can you think of some things you did as a child that were OCD based?
Yeah. As a child, yeah. So as a child, and at school and the first years of the university. So for the first part of my life. So one thing I was doing, and it was back in the 80s and 90s. So and not only 80s and 90s, but 80s and 90s in Greece, which means a poor, not well educated country back then. So my parents couldn't notice. Or they didn't know what these things mean. So for a child, I really enjoy having baths and cleaning myself. So that was one thing. And it was something I was asking. The second thing is that I was double checking things, especially when I was studying for school. So I wanted to make sure that everything is correct. Sometimes I could, when I was doing language and I was writing down things, I might write the same letter again and again to make sure it's well written until the page, that part of the page was destroyed. I wanted things in a certain way, and when they weren't, I was getting really frustrated. Like, even where I put my toys and in which order. And one thing I want to say, because I've seen that, because back in Greece, I did a documentary, because it's part of my job is I'm a filmmaker. So I did a documentary in Greece, and I want to do one now here in England. So I interviewed parents and children. So some things are not bad. Things that the children are doing are not bad per se.
Structure.
Yeah, but when you see a kid being so well structured and that they observe and they remember things really well, and they want things to be in a certain way, and they get frustrated, I think that's the key point to say maybe this is an OCD personality or an OCD condition, because these are two different things. Another thing that I had as a child, and I still do, sometimes you need to get a clear answer to feel okay. So I was always, and as a child, that type of person where if someone were to tell me, there's something going on, I'm going to tell you tomorrow, that was out of the question. You have to tell me now, because, all these crazy ideas come to your head and you want to know what's the whole thing. And maybe it's just a good surprise, but it doesn't matter. You need to know right there. So I couldn't handle that as a child. Like my mother saying, I have a surprise for you. I couldn't wait. I had to know here and there. Also, if there was like something wrong, let's say that I did something wrong and my mother was mad at me. And, after a day or two where everything was forgotten and everything was right, I had to ask, is everything okay? Because I had the need to listen to the actual phrase, yes, everything is okay, to feel okay. So that was the little things that I always had, not to a degree to suffer or to a degree to not living a normal life at school with my friends or playing with my friends. And I have to say, I clearly remember how it all started by saying that now I have OCD and not an OCD personality, because I was always like that. So until I was 25, I just had these little things, and everything happened in just one day. It struck me like in a moment, and it became in a moment to be a true severe OCD that escalated within a month, of course. But I remember the very, very, very first moment. So yeah.
So what do you think triggered it?
No idea.
Oh, okay. Were you under a lot of stress at that time?
No, that's the crazy thing. So I had, if you see my life, as an observer, I had an amazing life after my 20s. So I managed to become pretty famous in Greece as a musician and filmmaker. So when I was 25, when it first happened to me, I was already doing national tours with a famous band. Everything was amazing. Top 10 charts, things like that, living as a rock star. Everything was really good, and I was really lucky. And again, to be able to live out of your art and be famous in Greece is super, super hard. So I got really lucky as well. It wasn't that I worked hard. It was little circumstances that led me there. So what happened is that I broke up with my girlfriend and I went on a tour, which tour was a crazy party, like all rockstars tours. By the way, no drugs at all. I've never tried them, never had any relation with drugs. And I wasn't a heavy alcohol drinker. It was just fun. And as an OCD personality, again, I was always pretty cautious when it comes to sex, let's say, always using a condom, right? So I had this amazing tour. I came back really tired. It was a Sunday, and I arrived at home like in the afternoon or something, and I got a message from my ex, and she was like, I would like to come over and both of us have a talk. And I was all right with that. And I said to her, yeah, please come. So She came, and as I opened the door, I saw her. And in 1 second, I thought, oh my God, I have HIV. I have AIDS. It's 100% sure. I don't know why. I don't know what triggered it. I didn't have any reason to think that I was in danger. Not at all. So I couldn't take that thought off my head. So we were having this conversation with Elizabeth, that was her name. And she wanted us to be back together. And I couldn't even listen to what she was saying. I was just thinking that I have AIDS and that's for sure, and I'm going to die. And I was thinking that if we do anything together at that night, I will pass HIV to her. So I was trying to avoid the whole conversation. So I was in panic. And that's what started basically a chain reaction of me going to the doctor, getting tested, not getting convinced that I have nothing, although obviously all the tests were negative. And again, I wanted to check again. By the way, in Greece, the health system is free for everyone. So, and I understand that this is something Americans struggle with. And for us European, it's really weird that you don't have that. But having OCD and at the same time having free health, it's pretty risky because you can go anytime, check yourself without paying anything. So I was spending my days in the hospital and doctors doing tests again and again. And although all the tests were negative and I was 100% healthy, I couldn't convince myself. There was always a little excuse that probably my test got mixed with somebody else, so I can be sure, let's do it again. Or maybe because I've read in a website that you have to wait for 6 months or 3 months after your last sex. So, I had to wait another 3 months to redo the test, but then maybe it's 6 months. So I had to wait. And of course, when the whole AIDS and HIV got out of the picture, I got cancer. And then maybe I suffer from heart attacks and maybe, and it started like that. So that was the very first thing that triggered it. I don't know why. I really don't. And I think it's, from my understanding, OCD is a condition that kind of has pathological reasons, not only psychological. So I guess it's a mix. No idea.
It's illogical.
Yeah.
It's totally illogical.
To me, the hardest part is for OCD, and I keep telling that, is that you understand that these things you're doing are wrong. It's not like you have schizophrenia, for example, and you truly believe that someone is hunting you down and is going to kill you, and you truly believe that. You understand that's nothing wrong. You understand that you've been ridiculous doing these things, but you cannot stop it. So having your logic there fully working and not being able to resist to the thing that makes your life hell is the hardest part. And I was feeling, and still do, like embarrassed, not to others, to myself, because you are destroying your life and you are throwing away years and months for something you truly understand it's wrong and there's nothing to be afraid of. So yeah, so that's how it started. It got worse, and yeah, so that's my answer.
I'm very curious. I was going to ask you this later, but I'm going to ask you now. How did you deal with COVID? Was it because you had been in treatment and?
All right. So here's the thing with COVID. COVID was a huge surprise for me because, let me say first that I truly believe in science and I don't believe in conspiracy theories. So I truly believe that COVID existed and the vaccine is a good thing and all these things. So let me clear that up.
Okay.
So for some reason, COVID didn't touch me at all. Mm-hmm. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't very cautious. So, my wife would be, okay, let's wear a mask. And I would say, oh, it annoys me. Oh, come on. So for some reason, COVID didn't touch me. But by then I was, I had not finished my therapy because I still do therapy, but I was really, really good. I was at a great state. And usually, me personally, when it comes to real things that are there and they truly exist, I'm always calm and ready to,
I see.
deal with
Okay.
them.
I
So,
see.
yeah. So when something really bad happens, I control myself
Mm-hmm.
entirely. And usually what happens is that when it ends,
Mm-hmm.
and then, I calm down because I've deal with the situation, it's then where I might get a panic attack or be really stressful.
Mm-hmm.
So nowadays, my OCD is focused on moments where I am trying to calm down or rest. So during the day, I'm perfect. If I sit down to watch a movie, everything stops. So when I work, when I'm out, when I'm dealing with a situation, when I'm out with friends, I'm always great. When I'm by myself or with someone really familiar, watching a movie or trying to sleep, then it starts hitting me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm now in the other,
Well,
side
that's
of
like
things.
me. I'm always trying to be doing something with my brain, just keep my brain going.
Yeah,
If it
that's
just
the
starts
case.
to
I
empty,
know.
I'm in trouble. So were other people noticing this? Like you're
Okay, so I will again add Greece in the whole thing. So I mean, worldwide, if you see it from a certain point of view, worldwide, suffering from a mental condition has a little bit of taboo. Even though society has really progressed, so in social things like gender-wise, feminism, racism, everything is kind of getting better, especially in the poorest countries. So the society seems to care about minorities when it comes to psychiatrists and mental issues. There's this thing that, oh no. So, and I cannot even explain why. It's weird. So back then, when I was 25, early 2000, my parents couldn't understand that at all. So also my parents were divorced. I didn't have a good relationship with my father either way. My mother was really concerned, but her first reaction is, it's all in your head. You need to work more. You need to forget it. She don't tell other people because they might think you're crazy. Things like that. But that's the fact. I was crazy. I was trapped in my place, not being able to do anything, work, pay my rent, go on tours. I had to abandon my rockstar life, my dream life, because I had the dream job and things like that. My father was always distant, developed this thought that I'm doing everything to take his attention and everybody else's attention, and not to work and not to do anything, and just take money out of the family without working and things like that. So I had to struggle alone. I was pretty lucky because my cousin, and Mediterranean Greek family, cousins, huge families. My cousin was and still is a psychologist, so he immediately spotted it and said, okay, probably this is something that is called OCD, and you truly need to go see someone. Now, and he suggested someone. So I got treatment right away. After the first 3 months, and especially when the doctor gave me medication, it's where my parents and family really paid attention, because they were kind of scared of the medication, because everyone thinks that if you take medication, you will become a zombie and an addicted person, which is far away from the truth. So yeah, I got their attention there. So my mother really tried to understand. She even went by herself to see a few specialists to understand how to help me. My dad never bothered. So yeah, that's the first reaction. My girlfriend because that because we got back together after that day, couldn't handle it, and it was really hard to be in a relationship because I was really bad. I mean, I've reached a point where I wanted to wash my hands, but I couldn't turn on the water to wash my hands because maybe there were germs there. So I was trapped in the bathroom for hours, suffering, not being able to even wash my hands. So, it was really hard. And I don't blame anyone. I understand why in your 20s be in a relationship where someone is, that bad, because I was really bad. My mother tried. She still struggles to understand a few things. She will, whenever she sees me, although I'm 40, she has this urge to hug me and kiss me all over, although she knows I don't want it. But yeah, she really tried from a point onwards. She really tried. My wife, I'm really lucky. That's all I gotta say. She was and still is doing her best, and she helped me a lot. So yeah, I was at first pretty much alone. Now I'm perfect. In the middle, I had to spend some time to convince them that I need help. And if it wasn't for free health and free mental health in Greece, I guess I would be doomed, because I couldn't walk at that point. So I couldn't, pay for all these things. And if you don't have your parents and your family there helping you, it would be impossible. So I guess that's the lucky thing we have here in Europe, that we get free health. And, even if people don't support you, you can go and ask for help from really good specialists without paying 500 per session or whatever.
Even in the UK?
Yeah.
You're finding it pretty much the same in the UK as you did in Greece?
It is the same. Well, okay. The system is not as good because you have a GP and you cannot go right away to a specialist. You first have to go to the GP and they refer you. Where in Greece, it's the opposite. You can go right away to any specialist you want.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But here in the UK, they have a really good system for mental health issues.
Okay.
You are referred right away. It's for free. You get online sessions right away. And when I first came here, I was kind of scared that it won't be the same, but it is, and it's pretty good. But I still do sessions with my Greek doctor online, because it's been years.
Great.
And
that's great.
And I pay because I don't live in Greece, but it's not that expensive, it's like for people to know the difference, to get a really good specialist in Greece, private, not through the health system. It's like 70 euros or 50 euros per session. It's not that expensive. You can afford it, especially if you live in the UK, you work in the UK and you're paying something in Greece.
I hope you learned a lot from part 1 of my conversation with Agis Angeleye. If you would like to reach out to Agis, please email him at agis@rpgstories.net. I will put his email address in the show notes. For part 2, please return next Monday morning. And don't forget that this podcast now has a Facebook group. It's a safe space where we can share our experiences with others who understand, because we all have one thing in common: obsessive compulsive disorder. Join us, won't you, on the Around and Around the OCD Circle Facebook page. The link is in the show notes, along with all of my social media contacts. Until next time, have a fabulous week. I am in your corner. You are not alone. Bye now.